Oh my goodness, what sort of freak show is this? I thought I'd get on the floor this time. How do you like this robe? I made it like 16 years ago. There was a shop in town, I think it's called the Hemp Store. Anyway, since hemp is really indifferentiated from marijuana, and by the way, they'd smoke that crap at the tattoo store, and it just made me want to vomit, just the smell of that garbage. I've never smoked that stuff in my life, nor would I ever. But hemp as a fabric is absolutely incredible. This is actually twill hemp. I cut this out myself from a roll of very expensive twill hemp. You can actually see the twill weave on this, and I should have made made a couple of these. I should have made a pair of pants to match, but I never did. But they put the shop out of business because, well, hemp is dope, and I guess you could smoke this stuff if you were a pothead or something. Of course, I guess you wouldn't get high off of it, of course. I don't know anything about marijuana, but and I have no interest in it at all because I'm never going to smoke that nasty crap. But people out there are probably fuming mad at me now for saying that. But anyway, this stuff is indestructible, yeah, I am really good on the sewing machine. I cut this out 100% myself. I sewed it up with the sewing machine, of course, 100% myself. And it's incredibly comfortable and very breathable. No, I'm not a Buddhist. I am an expert in Pali translation and Pali metaphysics and Greek Plate. I'm a hardcore Greek Platonist. That was just kind of like an intro. I thought I'd actually sit down here. I was going to talk about, I didn't know what to deem this little video. I was going to call it real photography versus hippie douchebag photography. And let's just make things really simple here, okay? I'm filming this on a little point and shoot. I should whip out the D750 and I shot the video on it, with it. I've been superior video and superior audio, but I've been so busy all day long. I've been doing tech support on the phone with one guy, an ex boss of mine who's having computer trouble, so I've just been really busy all day long. You just keep things simple, for God's sakes. I mean, we've turned into a bunch of gadget whores, and if we were to go back 150 or more years, I mean, this is art, and ultimately we want the best lenses. We want to know what the best gear is, but I mean, some of the best shots you'll see out there, you have to ask yourself, what in God's name are you going to be doing with it? Is it going to be business photography? Are you going to be doing a landscape? Do you need an anti-aliasing filter, or does it matter or not? I mean, realistically, are you going to be printing anything larger than a 20 by 30? I mean, if you can write this the gear off, I mean, I've got all the Nikon DSLRs, okay? I'm not fond of the Nikon D4S. It's an exquisite camera, but the D3 is a lot better. I mean, yeah, this is 12 megapixels, and the D4 is a lot faster, but I'm not I've done photojournalist work before, and I've done stuff for the Herald Leader, local newspaper, as well as in Daytona Beach, but I don't need that sort of continuous high machine gun shooting, and it's not necessary. So I mean, I could buy whatever gear I want, but I have to ask myself, do I really need it? Do you need 4,000 focus points? I mean, I know that's hyperbole, but this is an art form. You want the best gear, and your paints, obviously are your lenses and your sensors, and of course you have AD converters in there. Everybody talks about sensors, but what's more important than the sensor, and nobody talks about that, is AD converters and the SNR firmware that actually samples the image and takes out noise and does other things. Because the same sensor in the Nikon D700 is the exact same sensor that's in here. And they have totally different outputs. But the point is that, there's a thing called intellectual atrophy of the brain, and this is art. You have to develop the eye, and you have to know what to see. And what happens is that, while you need certain features for sports photography and action photography, everybody else is using those features and engaging in douchebag photography. And I'm guilty of it from time to time, and program mode is not like building an altar to Satan or something, and sacrificing little animals. I mean, there are times for it where you stick your camera out the friggin' window. So what? Throw it in program mode. I mean, who gives a damn? I mean, ultimately it's about the picture. But you need to learn to spot meter. Start seeing what your shot is and slowing down. All of you should really learn how to manually focus your lenses. It's more of an issue on a DX camera than it is an FX. Depends on how bad your eyesight is. And if you got bad eyesight, that's understandable. But most of you don't. And so people that need it, that's fine. But if you don't need it, what you're causing is mental atrophy. You're engaging in douchebag photography. And you need to slow the F down and start spot metering your stuff. Start manually focusing and taking a look. Just stop spraying. Oh, click, 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 click. Screw that crap. I mean, is that photography? That's spray and pray. A broken clock is right twice a day, and a blind squirrel finds a walnut every now and then. And you can do the same thing in photography. Like, well, I took 10,000 shots, but I got a couple great shots. It's like, well, that's great. How about you slow the F down? Start manually focusing the lenses, unless you got eyesight issues or whatnot. And start spot metering. Just throw it in spot meter and aperture priority or manual. If the shooting for the day, like a sports in action, doesn't call for it, then screw it. Throw it in continuous high and throw it in program mode. Do what you need to do, but if you don't need to do it, your skills are more important than speed in most instances. I mean, the boat ain't going nowhere. Spot meter and throw it in manual mode and start taking a look at what the output is. And that will actually jog your brain and to start seeing not what your eyes see, but what is potentially there. Because your camera is a time machine. It's got shutter speeds on there for a reason. Your eyes don't have shutter speeds, but your brain does. And the way you develop the shutter speed inside your brain is by starting to throw this camera, whatever camera you got, in spot meter and aperture priority, or preferably manual. And that way you'll see it's like, oh, I did that, and this is how the shot turned out. I never expected that. What you'll start to find out is that a certain percentage of your shots will turn out far, far better than you expected because you made a mistake. You'll think, oh, that's a neat effect. I didn't think about that because I got blur motion, or I got shallow depth of field, and the bokeh this particular way looks better. And so you'll start to develop shutter speeds and apertures in your brain, and what separates out, amateur douchebag photography from professional photography, obviously, is one, you're an expert in composition, and two, in light manipulation. But the third is that you're able to see what is potentially there rather than what is actually. So, oh, that's a pretty image, click. That's not a pretty image. Well, it might be potentially. If you have your brain developed to where you're able to see what this looks like with a time exposure or different lighting or a different aperture, which is what professionals do because they have been shooting manual. They grew up with film cameras like I did and a light meter hanging around their neck. You're able to see what is potentially there versus rather than what is there. And a lot of shots are passed up that way. Now, it's so inexcusable now. Back then, you had to do that because film was a bitch to load and process, and it cost money, of course. I mean, you got compact flash cards and SD cards now. I mean, who gives a crap if you screw up? I mean, you've got no damn excuse anymore for that sort of crap. There's just no excuse for that shit anymore, excuse my language. It's just no friggin' excuse for that crap. I mean, if you want an expensive DSLR with a bitchin' lens on it and to take awesome photographs in program mode, and that's all you want, that's fine, who gives a damn? I don't give a damn. But don't buy an expensive camera like this or something else with an expensive, awesome lens on it. Throw it in program mode and wonder why your cameras look like the same sort of crap that's being put out by a point and shoot, except a lot better and a lot sharper and a higher megapixel range. You're going to have to start seeing what is there potentially rather than what is not there with your eyes. Your eyes don't have shutter speed. Your eyes don't have... After I'm going to check my eyeballs what this is going to look like at f1.8 versus f11. You're going to have to jog your brain by developing those skills and start shooting. And, you can't waste your compact flash cards or your SD cards because they're reusable. So, back in the days of film, there was an excuse for that sort of crap. And you had to really hone your skills because it didn't matter how much money you had. Processing film was a bitch. And, you know, loading it and the chemicals and all the rest of the crap was a bitch. And it isn't a bitch. All that crap is gone. So, you know, your excuse is gone. I mean, ultimately, all I need is one good camera. I mean, if everything on this camera was broken and could only spot meter, and the autofocus motor was broken, I don't even know if I'd get it fixed. I mean, I probably would, but I mean, it'd be perfectly fine. Spot meter, manual focus, who gives a damn? You'll develop better skills that way. Now, that's not to say that that camera is obviously useful for, you know, shooting, you know, sports or action and whatnot. You need those features for certain things, obviously so. But, you know, the 10,000 douchebag features that cause your brain to get, just like me. I got fat because I moved away from Florida and moved back up here, and I sit behind the computer all the time. You know, my muscles have atrophied, and now I've got a spare tire around my gut again. You know, the same thing happens. What happens to your friggin' brain is the same crap that happened to my, you know, what used to be great shape. I used to be like a 27-inch waist and, you know, super skinny, very fit. And, you know, your brain's the same way. And if you just leave it in program mode and start engaging. See, I can barely get off the floor, I'm so fat. You start engaging in douchebag photography, you're going to have a problem, okay? Just think about it, for God's sakes, because it's really important. And nobody talks about it, and they really don't. Actually,